Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to do 5 things that I don't like about the Audi S3. You may have seen my other video with 5 things that I do like about the Audi S3. I'm not hating on this car. Generally speaking, I love this car and I think it's really hard to beat, but this video we're going to talk about the things that I don't like. Now, the first thing that I dislike or hate about this car is the all-wheel drive system. The car uses an on-demand system called Haldex. It is not a full-time four-wheel drive car like you would find in an Evolution Lancer, a WRX, or a Ford Focus RS. This is an on-demand system which sends power to the rear wheels as required. Now, there are some really good arguments for the Haldex system. It is much better in terms of fuel economy because it doesn't have the mechanical resistance of powering all 4 wheels, so the fuel economy is better. The second thing about the Haldex is that it gives you a better turning circle. It also delivers more power to the front wheels because it has less resistance from the rear. So I understand all the benefits of the Haldex and I understand why the Audi uses a Haldex system, but it is very easy to find the limits of the Haldex system, and the car performs basically like a front-wheel drive most of the time. Then, as required, it will send some power to the rear wheels. Now, finding the limits of this system is very easy if you are to turn off all the stability and traction systems and drive it in the wet in first gear, and to go around a roundabout and apply full throttle on exit. The car will behave quite odd, actually. It will sometimes understeer, sometimes oversteer. It will depend on how the all-wheel drive system delivers that power, but it is very inconsistent in terms of its performance. I find it a little bit frustrating. I would have really liked an all full-time system, but again, I do understand the reason why Audi have used this Haldex system. It is the same system in the Golf R. And as far as drivability, it's not too bad, but on the limit, it is not a good system. Number 2 is the servicing costs. Now, this uses the same engine, the same gearbox as a Golf R, yet the service costs are roughly double those of a Golf R. I'd expect to pay a little bit more for the Audi just because of the name, but that is just a blatant attempt at overcharging Audi owners, which I find a little bit frustrating. I was lucky enough to get a free service agreement on this car, on this Audi, for 3 years, but I think without the free servicing, I probably would have gone for the Golf R. But yeah, there you go. If you're lucky enough to get a free service pack, then that's fantastic. But if you are paying for the servicing costs, please be aware that they are considerably more than the Volkswagen Golf R, and certainly any of the Japanese competitors. The next thing I don't like about this car is the sound. Now, I know engine sound from a 4-cylinder is usually not particularly good, and this car is no exception. Now, it does have a sound actor, sound actor, which does produce a synthetic engine sound from inside the cabin. Even that it has to do that is sort of a bit of a statement about the car's engine sound. I don't particularly like the noise from the sound actor. I think it's even worse in the Golf R. That is a personal opinion. The Golf R tries to sound like a V6, like what the R32's, the R32 Golf sounds like from the Generation 5. The Audi tries to sound a bit more like a 5-cylinder, and I think for me, one of my big gripes on this car is definitely the engine sound. I every time I see an RS3, I wish my car sounded like that, but it doesn't, and I guess that's just what you get with a 4-cylinder. I don't even like the sound of an A45. I don't think they're a car that sounds that good. So that's maybe it's just my big hang up with 4-cylinder cars, but I think that probably could sound better. The final thing I don't like about this car is the on-track performance. Now, I took this Audi S3 to the track and I was definitely disappointed with the on-track performance. So I guess being an S model, I sort of expected that it would perform a little bit better than most road cars on the track. It was disappointing. Having said that, you could punch out some respectable lap times, but the only way to be quick in this car is to overdrive the car and really exploit the limits of the car, and that's no fun. I don't find punishing a relatively expensive car in order to be consistently fast fun. Now, to be more specific for those that are interested, the areas where the car failed was the dynamics are those of a front-wheel drive, so it definitely requires the driver to drive the car in the same nature you would to be quick in front-wheel drive, lift off on corner entry, use the inertia to pivot the car into the corner, use very little throttle on corner exit because the car will just understeer. I think the factory tyres are certainly not suited for track work, and I couldn't see myself tracking this car again without changing the tyres and probably some of the suspension setup as well. Some other issues I had on track was the brakes definitely getting to the end of their capabilities. They could have been worse. The brakes weren't a huge weak point, but they were definitely on their limit on the track, and I suppose that's probably the case for most road cars, to be fair. The gearbox, after probably 5, maybe 8 laps, stopped taking input, so it would no longer respond to the paddle changes, and the car took over changing gears. Now, I don't know if that's a heat thing or what that is, but obviously pretty frustrating when the car takes over from you when you're out on the track. I know there's all sorts of ECU and transmission flash stuff you can do that would probably help with a lot of this stuff, but this assessment is based on the standard car, and the standard car is certainly not suited to any track driving. I see a lot of people talk about how well these cars handle and how much grip and how sure-footed they feel. That is definitely not the case on a racetrack, and I think the people who make those statements about how well these cars handle are strictly talking about their experience on the road, where you can't really find a car's limits. It's very hard to overdrive a car on the street. The track's a different story. If you haven't been to the track, I really would recommend getting out there. It's a fundamentally different experience to that of the road, and it will definitely make you a better driver. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you've got any comments or any suggestions, please leave them down below, and I'll get back to you. So during the edit, I noticed that I'd only listed 4 things that I don't like about the Audi. There is a 5th thing which I had forgotten in the video, and that is the ride quality. So a very good friend of mine has a Golf R, and I have to say the Golf R does actually ride a little bit better than the Audi. It has a different suspension system. My S3 has magnetic ride. For those out there considering the mag ride, consider it very, very carefully. It is quite floaty, so the suspension style in the mag ride is probably a bit different to what some people might be expecting. It's very bouncy is the only way I can describe it, and there's been a lot of talk about this in the Audi community about how to improve this bounciness. Some guys have put progressive springs in to counteract it, but whatever the case, in the standard car, I can tell you the magnetic ride is very floaty, so if you go over a speed bump, the car will kind of float afterwards and not settle instantly. I find that a bit off-putting. I think it probably could have been better. I actually haven't driven an S3 without the magnetic ride, so I can't comment on the standard suspension. I can only comment on the mag ride, and the mag ride is definitely not impressive. In the dynamic setting, it is way too rough. I can't use the dynamic setting on Australian roads. It's just far too firm, and I have it in comfort all the time, and in comfort it's very floaty. So I think I probably would go without the mag ride next time round, or I certainly wouldn't be getting the mag ride expecting that it's going to improve ride quality. This is not just my opinion. Lots of guys in the community have talked about it, and the consensus seems to be that the ride quality is indeed better in the in the non-mag ride cars. Mine has the 19s. I know some of the early cars have the 18s. I think the 18s probably would ride a bit better, but mine is a Sportback on 19s, and the ride is firm, would be an understatement, and floaty on the comfort setting. So very crashy too. Any elevation change or sudden like a pothole or something like that really goes through the whole car. I know there's no tyre there to absorb the impact, but my friend's Golf R does seem to cope with those situations a little bit better than the S3. So that's the final thing I don't like about the Audi. And again, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.